My name is Niklas Amerson. I'm the head of product management for Spotfire, and I'm very pleased to be able to present what's new in TIBCO Spotfire 11.6 today. As usual, we have the confidentiality and disclaimer statement. And then I wanted to start off by saying that Spotfire 11.6 is a mainstream release as opposed to a long-term support release. And if you are interested in the differences here, it's just to Google Spotfire LTS releases and you'll find the details of the definitions of long-term support and mainstream releases. At TIBCO, we try to help our customers innovate. So we do this by providing advanced software tools that lets you connect different systems, unify your data from metadata to transactional data, analyze your business as it was, as it is right now, and predict the future state of your business. If we focus on the predict area, that provides capabilities around visual analytics, data science, streaming analytics, and you can see that TIBCO provides market-leading technology for all these kinds of analytics. And in fact, TIBCO is the only vendor that is a leader in all three analytics submarkets of visual analytics, data science, and streaming analytics. So what does that mean? So it means that we at TIBCO can help you solve every single type of problem that involves understanding data to figure out what happened in the past, what's happening right now, and to predict what's going to happen next. As the well-known analyst firm Forrester wrote, TIBCO Spotfire fuses all advanced analytics, data science, geolocation, and streaming, a formidable set of advanced capabilities in a single platform. So this was in a Forrester way for augmented BI in 2021. So this is, of course, something that we are proud of, but why is this important? It is important because one of the big things that's happening right now in the analytics market is the convergence of technologies and personas. So this is a convergence that's bringing together the technologies for human insights, machine learning, and data and automation. So the need for human insights is becoming greater, and that is what Spotfire was originally built for. So humans are creative, we are empathic, and we can think outside the box. Those are qualities that are hard to automate with machine learning. But on the other hand, machine learning can be used to help humans by automating many tasks so we can free up the time to deal with things that machines can't do. What's also happening is the data analytics teams are converging. So data analysts, data scientists, architects, engineers, domain experts, and business experts, they cannot only be focused on their slice, but need a working knowledge in adjacent areas as well. So there is this convergence happening in terms of personas as well. And we are talking about this because TIBCO can uniquely deliver on this challenge. So if you recall from the previous slide, we had leadership positions in all three Forrester waves for BI, data science, and streaming. We think we have a duty for our customers to address this and help you become successful. Two of the new features we're going to see today are addressing this convergence. So it's easier than ever access to self-service governed data in TIBCO Data Virtualization. And it's the blending of visual analytics and data science made easy for business users. But insights and data is nothing if it's not used throughout the organization. Spotfire lets you use analytics to support decision-making throughout the analytics spectrum, whether it's ad hoc discovery of relationships supported with AI and machine learning, as you see right now, that can help you detect relationships, outliers, clusters, etc. Or perhaps it's automatic scheduled delivery of PDF reports to a large set of users. Spotfire does that as well. Or it might be an operational analytic application that helps non-analyst users to do their job. Or perhaps it's a data science application for manufacturing engineers or scientists in the life science area. And it's available on your desktop, in your web browser, your phone and tablet. So Spotfire lets you operationalize insights and lets you deliver insights when and where you need them at the moment of decision. So what is new in Spotfire 11.6? As I mentioned, the two biggest features are the seamless access to virtualized governed data in TDV and the improved user experience for data functions, providing business users with the ability to use advanced analytics in their visual analytics experience. But there are also other features in the data, admin, and developer space, as you see here, and we'll also touch base on the most recent developments on available visualization mods. But let's start with data. Spotfire has been able to access data from TIBCO Data Virtualizations for many years, but now this integration has a much more prominent place in the user interface. Directly from Spotfire files and data flyouts, as you can see in the screenshot, the user is now able to browse, search, and select data in virtual views. The integration is built using Kerberos single sign-on, so no extra authentication is needed as you access data in TIBCO Data Virtualization. And we'll actually start with the first demo here. So this is TIBCO Data Virtualization, and for this demo, let's assume that I'm a business analyst that has gotten the task to put together a data set of both current and former employees in order to analyze aspects that relate to people staying or leaving the company. So what we can do in here, starting in TDV, is to look for data related to employees. And we can see that there are various search results here. We can see current employees and former employees. That seems to be exactly what it is I need. So I just select both of them and create a new flow. So what we want to do here in order to support our analysis, we want to make a union out of the current employees and the former employees. And we want to call this all employees, and I'm calling it all employees too because I have just previously created one of these. And then what we need to do then is to publish this. So this operator here is the publish operator, and I just drag it there. And if I just make sure that I apply the new name, it's called all employees too. Then we can move on to the Spotfire client here, where the new thing you can see here is that in the Spotfire files and data flyout here, I actually have access directly to data in TDV. It's called data catalog here, which is actually a configurable name. And here I can now search for data in TDV. So I just, all employees 2, that's the one I just created. And if I open that one, I get to the normal add data flow here in Spotfire. And just to look at the data, we see we've got a lot of different data sets here, and I can use Spotfire's normal analytic capabilities, for example, to look at the salary data and create histograms and so on. So it's easier than ever to access data from TIBCO Data Virtualization in Spotfire. Other features in the data space includes Amazon RDS MariaDB support. So it means now that we actually support this data source through in the Connect 2 list from 11.5. We also have added more advanced configuration settings on the Microsoft SQL Server timeouts side. So you can set the connection timeout and the command timeout separately in the connection dialog. Moving on from the data area to the discovery area here. The discovery area is what Spotfire was really made to from the beginning, to let humans discover insights about the business using data. And where we have been developing this area for a while is in the convergence of visual analytics and advanced analytics. There has been a number of improvements done since 11.0 and up until 11.4, and most recently in 11.5, you may remember that we added the ability to tune data functions directly from the Spotfire Visual Analytics experience. We made it possible to edit input values and link document properties and so on, and all in the context of your visualization. I'm going to demo a little bit of this as well in the next few minutes, but let's first have a brief look at what's new in 11.6. A new thing here is that the data function pipelines now are available in the data canvas and also, of course, on the web client. So here in the familiar data canvas view, you can now actually find not only data tables, but also data functions, and you can view the configuration of the data function from here. So it's a visual representation of your data function instances that lets you see how the input parameters get their data and how outputs are used within the analysis. The second new and important improvement here is the ability to edit the data function inputs mapping here from the data canvas as well. So it's a new editing experience that makes it easy to adapt data functions to changes in the analytics context. And it's an intuitive access point for reviewing the configuration of the input parameters for the data function. So let's now have a quick demo related to this. So I'm going to open my demo analysis. So what we're looking at here is a data set from the OECD, which puts together a number of demographic and economic parameters for a number of countries. And we have plotted it here in a parallel coordinate plot, and that enables us to do visual analytics on this particular data set. And we can try to find countries that are similar here, like we can check if Finland and France are similar, and we can see that they are, in some areas, they are actually quite similar, but in some areas they differ quite a lot. And of course, it's going to be a little bit hard to manually go through this with visual analytics and group countries in areas that are in groups that are similar and not so similar. So this is, I think, a perfect example of where data science can actually be of help. So let's use the FX flyout here, where I can find data functions that I've pinned to the FX flyout. And I'm selecting the cluster data function, and I just need to configure its inputs and outputs. And I'm just selecting to do this on almost all the columns in the data set. And there are a few other parameters to configure for this particular clustering data function. So that, like the number of samples that we want to have. And then Spotfire automatically suggests that I add the cluster column to the existing data set, and I just press OK. What's happening is that the data function is executing. This takes a short while, but as it finishes, I have a new column here, the cluster ID, and I can drag and drop this onto the color axis of this visualization. And we can see that we got 2 clusters and then one which is called noise. This is how the this particular cluster function denotes noise. So these are countries that are not part of any particular cluster at this point in time. So here's one cluster of similar countries, and here's another. What we can do now is we can actually tweak the input parameters to the data function directly from the FX flyout. So I'm just changing and clicking refresh. And as the data function re-executes, once it's done, we can see that there are now more clusters here, and we can actually inspect these. So here are 3 countries that are similar. Here's another set of countries, and yeah, there are now 4 different clusters of countries that are similar. So this is essentially functionality that was made available in 11.5, but what's now new in 11.6 is in the data canvas area, where we actually now not only can see the data tables, but also have data functions visible here. So this is an access point for your data functions in this new user interface. And if I click cluster, we get to see a visual representation of the data functions configuration. So we can see that it does have a set of input columns here. We can see the values of these and which columns there are. We can see that there is a fixed value. We can see that there is another fixed value, and we can even click here to edit the data functions inputs. So here is the full input configuration can be edited, and we can even look at the script that is the script of the data function. If we like to, it's accessed from this little access point here, and the output is the cluster ID column, which is visible here. So it's a new and intuitive way of viewing how your data function is configured. So let's continue in the presentation here, and we should also mention that this is not only a good new user experience for data science in Spotfire, but there is also a wealth of data functions available on the TIBCO Exchange in the data function library. So you can Google for TIBCO Spotfire data function library or just Spotfire data function library, and you will find this on the TIBCO community and TIBCO Exchange. So there is a number of data functions in various categories here, like data preparation, data modeling, prediction, data access, and so on. And they range from fairly simple data preparation tasks like removing duplicates to really advanced functionalities like wafer pattern detection and gradient boosting machine regression. Another small but important improvement in the visual analytics space is that we have now made 16:9 format the default when exporting to PowerPoint, but it's possible for administrators to switch back to the 4:3 format should they require to do that. And in the visualization mods area, the new and updated, the big news is really the Gantt chart, which is a new visualization mod that we have recently contributed to the TIBCO Exchange. So it enables you to visualize various categories on a time series. So it illustrates the start and stop of different activities as bars in a line, and it's often used in project management as one of the more useful ways of showing activities displayed over time in a project. So here's how it actually looks in practice. So you can see that there you have the possibility here of changing the time granularity that you want to view the data on. You can mark data. If you want to, you can use it as a master or master visualization. Should you want to do that, and you can configure labels, as you can see here, and it supports the normal marking from the legend as you would expect from a Spotfire visualization. You have support for zoom sliders, and you see the hierarchy here on the categorical axis. That the concept is the overall category, and then there are different categories beneath that. So if you have the need for visualizing your project data, for example, or any sort of progress over time and so on, the Gantt chart is a useful resource for that. There has also been an update to the area support, to the area chart, to add support for rendering more data on the x-axis, better error messages, and a new version of the area chart requires Spotfire 11.5 or later, but the previous version is still available for those of you that are running previous Spotfire versions. The stock chart has also been updated to add options to use logarithmic scales, and the settings are accessible from the button. And as with the area chart, this now requires Spotfire 11.4, but the previous version is still available for those of you on older versions. There is also an update to the bump chart that adds options to display column labels vertically, scale, and fit labels to the longest row and column labels respectively. As before, the TIBCO Exchange is open for submission of mods. So if you want to share your mod with the TIBCO users community, just get in touch with us, primarily by contacting Arnaud Varan. Now moving over to the administration and deployments area of Spotfire. And here we have now added support for the server side of the platform. So the Spotfire server, statistic services, enterprise runtime for R, and the Spotfire service for Python are now supported on Debian 10 and 11. Very similar, but also we have added support for OpenSUSE 15 for the same services. In addition to that, we have added a new command line argument to filter service operations by platform. So there are now, the TER service is the first version of the Spotfire services that actually can have different configurations for per platform. So you can now export the service either for Linux or Windows and change them independently of each other. And also for administrators, when you're configuring OAuth2 authentication to the Spotfire server, you now can make use of the prompt parameter for doing this. To conclude with the developers section, we have now provided the ability to hide menus from the toolbar in a web player mashup. So a new configuration option allows you for hiding the menus in the toolbar while keeping the rest of the toolbar visible. So this is available in the JavaScript API for mashups and in this copy link dialog where you can see that you now have a new option, which is toolbar menus. So this is great in case you want to keep the toolbar to provide capabilities such as filters and bookmarks and so on, or using any other capability that you can actually customize the toolbar to. But if you want to hide the functionality in the menus. So in summary, what's new in Spotfire 11.6 is the data function overview, the edit data functions inputs mapping, widescreen export to Microsoft PowerPoint, and the new visualization mod, the Gantt chart. And of course, as you saw in the data area, seamless integration with data virtualization, and also the addition of the advanced timeout setting for Microsoft SQL Server. And as you just saw, a few administration and deployment improvements, and for the developers, the possibility to hide menus in the toolbar in a web player mashup. Thank you for this, and I hope that you do like the capabilities in Spotfire 11.6.